meant to do when she opened the gun cabinet.
I got a phone call, and it was Lorna. She was drunk. She sounded drunk. And before I had a chance to even say anything, she just said, "I just want you to know I'm really happy with Paul, and we're going to try for a baby, and if we have one, then I'll stay home and look after it, because it'll look like us."
I can't believe for a moment that Lorna would make that type of phone call. Her own children were... Keith, I don't know whether he's Polynesian, but her own children weren't completely white. They're beautiful mixed children. I can't imagine for a minute that she would make that type of comment. But having said that, you know, I was there once or twice a week, so you don't know what goes on outside of a relationship.
I just went blank. The next thing for me, I just remember thinking, oh, I need a cigarette, and I had to reach for one and realised I was sat in my car. It's an automatic, so it's like anything, you point it and it goes. And I was somewhere on the motorway, windows down, and in the footwell of the passenger seat was one of the guns.
One of the central planks of the prosecution case, which we had to prove to the jury so they were sure, was that this was not an off-the-cuff, irresistible impulse, or that she was provoked so that she couldn't master her actions. She admitted to friends and admitted in the witness box that she'd actually driven up to Chiswick in a similar fashion on the 8th of September in what we regarded as being certainly very probably a dummy run, and which she really had no real explanation for, because she asserted that she came to her senses almost when she arrived at Chiswick and immediately turned round and drove back.
As you get closer to the time of the killing, so her state is getting more desperate. Her illness, if you like, is more obvious and more serious. And probably being told about the baby was a sort of last straw on the camel's back.
Rena actually said to a friend that she was going to shoot Lorna, not to kill her, but specifically pointing towards her abdomen so that Lorna couldn't have babies. And she went on to say that if the friend read anything in the paper, it would be Rena who had done it.
September 2002. Rena Salmon is struggling to cope after the bitter breakup of her marriage. Her husband Paul has set up home with Lorna Stewart, Rena's ex-best friend. The pressures were beginning to build for Rena.
I went to see the solicitor. I couldn't give the kids what they'd had all their life. I'd let them down. They were getting punished for me. So there's only one thing left.
She was expecting the next day to appear at court in relation to the breakup of her marriage with Paul. And they had, it seems, almost come to terms, legal terms that is, as to what should be taking place. The fact that Rena knew what she was going to do, and did do, tends to be supported by the fact that there was a text about seeing Rena in court the next day from Paul. And Rena Salmon replied to it, saying that she wouldn't be in court and that events would overtake that particular appearance.
I've been up all night. I went and got the gun out of the cabinet, and it was all really deliberate. I picked the first gun he'd ever had, because I'd paid for it for him as a present. It was this vermin gun, it was to get rid of rubbish. And that's what I was, so it made sense to use that one. And then I went to the garage where the cartridges were kept. But there were two different colours. And it was really odd, because I didn't know which one was for the gun. So I put one of each colour in, thinking, well, if the first shot don't work, then the second one will.
Her assertion was that she was going to commit suicide, but she loaded 2 shells into the shotgun. One is bound to assume that with a shotgun suicide, you never need to use the second shell.
I went up and got ready. I wanted to make sure that people wouldn't see me in a bad light. I put my jewellery on that Paul had first bought me, my original engagement ring and eternity ring, my diamond cross, and I got my daughter up and I gave her breakfast, and I brushed her hair and plaited it all up. And I told her that I loved her, never to forget, and I took her to school. And the next thing I know, I was parked outside Chiswick.
I think she was pretty seriously ill at the time that she ultimately went to the beauty parlour and did all these various things beforehand. And the way in which she tells the story can be interpreted medically, if you like, to suggest that she was in an extremely distressed and at times almost dissociated state, where she was almost watching herself doing things, which occurs in people who are very stressed.
In the meantime, Lorna was about to leave for work. She phoned Paul, as she often did, once she'd got to work, and she went down to the basement of Equilibrium with Lindsay, her workmate, as Rena Salmon was approaching Equilibrium in her car with the shotgun.
In the middle of a bitter marriage breakup and carrying a shotgun in the boot of her car, Rena Salmon drives to Chiswick, West London, to confront the woman who stole her husband.
I wasn't supposed to be there that day, but I changed my days around and subsequently was going in on this particular day. And the builders were already in the premises, so I went downstairs, put the computer on, and probably about 10-15 minutes later, Lorna came in, and she came downstairs. And she put some music on, she put the radio on, and she came into the office, and we were interviewing staff that day. We were almost ready to reopen, and we were sort of running to a fairly tight line to get the finances dictated that the business had to be back open as quickly as possible. So there was builders in there was quite a lot going on.
We started work, then Lorna came in, and basically I just had a few questions to ask her about the alarm system down in the basement, and we went down there, saw what we had to do and all that sort of stuff. And then, I just had to go up and confirm it with my boss.
She then took the shotgun out of the car. It was double-barreled. She walked holding the shotgun in front of her in a military manner, which was commented on by several people in the case, harking back to her military training and the fact that she was well trained in the use of firearms.
She was carrying a shotgun, but just to the side of her. There was no threat to me or anything like that. I mean, I'd only been in the country a short period of time from South Africa, and basically we see guns and stuff like that, so we did joke with her and say, oh, don't shoot, but we just thought it was a gun for the wall, or, you know. And then she asked me, is Lorna here? So I said, yeah, no problem, yeah, she's just downstairs in the basement. She walked past me and we didn't think anything of it.
The office was incredibly small, and I was sitting at the desk writing checks and looking through the accounts and so forth. And Lorna was squatting down on the floor in front of me. I could have reached out and touched her. And all of a sudden, I heard Lorna say,
hello, Rena. Like, she'd seen me every day, and we were still the best of mates.
And I looked up, and there was this woman standing in the doorway, and I could see the barrel of a gun, and I couldn't see the end of it because it was just so long, but it was actually, must have been touching Lorna's side.
But I'd been playing everything over in my head all night about how it would be and how she'd be scared because she'd seen me there and that she'd give him up. And she'd ring him and say, look, I've got Rena here. And that was my plan. So the minute that she had him on the phone, blow my brains out. She sees it, he hears it, and they'd know then just what they'd done.
Rena was incredibly controlled, but so too was Lorna. There was no shouting or screaming, you bitch, what have you done, or you're going to shoot me. And Lorna never even got up off the floor. She was still crouched on the floor. It was really controlled. It was a surreal situation to watch because it just didn't seem as if there was any emotion there. But I mean, probably Lorna was as frightened as I was, and I couldn't move. So maybe Lorna felt exactly the same way. She was frozen with fear too.
But then she asked me about the kids, and I was really confused because she wasn't doing what she was meant to do. And I said, well, you've taken Kendall and Megan to Australia, so I can't see them. And she went, no, offhand, no. I mean, yours. Like, they were insignificant as well. And it was like, well, Paul will look after him. What did you think was going to happen to him? She just sort of looked up at me, saying, well, do it. Go on, do it. So I pulled the trigger.